Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto was a global sensation that everyone and their mother seemed to be talking about in the anime community back in the early 2020s. And after the first season of anime released in 2022, fans are now waiting with bated breath for the Reze movie to release later this year. However, to many people who never read the original manga, they found that season 1 of the anime was a bit lacking and didn't understand the hype behind it. Some of them may feel tentative to buy into the excitement of the new movie because the previous season failed to pull them in as much as everyone promised. And I think that's a shame, because I believe the Reze arc is where Chainsaw Man went from good to amazing. It's with the story being the payoff on the seeds planted at the beginning of the narrative, proving it was something that was willing to be nuanced and deep. In just a small arc, it masterfully delivered everything that is great about Chainsaw Man: the comedy, the tragedy, and the heart. There's a reason why this is the arc that many people point to when discussing when they first started getting really invested in Chainsaw Man. And his storytelling is so perfect that it made me completely obsessed with its central character, Reze. I'm gonna just scroll through my Twitter for just like 5 seconds. And it's for a very good reason. Because this is the girl that changed Chainsaw Man.
私が全部教えてあげる。
While the arc is named after its titular character Reze, it does not start with her. It instead starts with Denji and Makima. After successfully defeating the Katana hybrid, Makima rewards Denji by going on a date with him. He's obviously ecstatic. His main goal within the story so far has been to get with Makima. But it's an odd date. Makima is in complete control of what they do, and she chooses that they spend the entire day watching movies back-to-back at a theater. This highlights the power imbalance in their relationship, something present since chapter 1. The age gap imbalance is the biggest example, with Denji being 16 while Makima is a fully grown woman. There's also the fact that Denji is essentially a slave to Makima, forced to do what she orders or else he'll be killed as the devil. And while there's much comedy found in Denji's schoolboy crush on Makima, and how his simplistic desires for sexual experiences are his motivations for being a devil hunter, in comparison to others like Aki who are hunters for revenge, these desires take a dark turn when we see Makima reciprocate them, or maybe less reciprocate, and more manipulate him in the worst way possible. A responsible adult would laugh off these advances from Denji, but we see multiple instances where she gives him small bits of intimacy and dangles the possibility of more in front of him as a motivator to continue hunting for her. This date is another one of these teases. And while she calls the date, it is far from romantic, almost more like a mother spending time with a child. Denji has no interest in movies, but Makima does, and it's so clear in the power imbalance when they are only doing what Makima wants. But why does Makima continue these gratifications and manipulations? Perhaps in this arc, we will get a glimpse. The two of them watch 9 movies back to back, little words being exchanged. None of the movies they watch seem to interest them. This all changes with the last one. At the very end of the film, we see 2 characters stare into each other's eyes. Then, they embrace in a hug. Denji finds himself unexpectedly crying. This small gesture of connection struck a deep chord within him. Embarrassed to be crying, he peeks over at Makima to see her reaction, and we see a curious sight. She's staring at the screen unmoving, tears trickling down her face. It's the first time we've seen her emotional on this date, and to the same human connection that moved Denji. And while he might not know it, this is a small glimpse into what Denji truly wants. On the walk home, Denji and Makima talk about how much they love the last movie. However, there's something in the back of Denji's head. During his last fight with Katana, the Yakuza member said something that stuck with him. He said that Denji didn't have a heart anymore after becoming Chainsaw Man, and he couldn't feel empathy towards others. This worries Denji because he thinks back on all the people he's seen die, and he realizes he wasn't particularly moved by any of their deaths. He tells this worry to Makima, who promptly presses her head on Denji's chest and listens to his heartbeat. Denji is completely flustered by this moment of physical contact. After a while, she tells him he does have a heart because she can hear it. When his mind is full of doubt, she comforts him, but in a way that teases his sexual desires. Once again, Makima reciprocates Denji's desire for intimacy, leading him on further. This fantastic open to the arc immediately reveals depth in Chainsaw Man's story, where a reader might have previously only seen surface-level comedy. As mentioned previously, early in Chainsaw Man's story, Denji's dedication towards wanting to experience the sexual is where the narrative derives a lot of its comedy. The pervert trope is something that's been prevalent throughout many shonen, because of its audience of teenage boys. At this point, it's a very tired trope. and it's very easy to write off Denji as just another member of this trope. But what separates Denji from his contemporaries is that his perverted nature tackles something deeper within his character, and there's the acknowledgement of the uncomfortable that others in this trope ignore. This is hinted at by how sex is used as a manipulation tactic against him. However, previously in the story, these moments never had time to breathe or be the focus of the narrative. It is at the start of the Reze arc, where we get a moment of peace from the action, that we get to really absorb the relationship between Denji and Makima. It's on this movie date where we see more than Denji's wants, but his needs. It shifts Chainsaw Man's seemingly lowbrow humor of boob squeezing and vomit kissing into something more, and his arc will continue to delve deeper into Denji's desires, unraveling how his want for sex is more than just a gag, with the introduction of a character who will put all of this into question. The following day, Denji walks down a city street elated. Of course he has a heart. He has feelings for Makima. Then the weather turns to the worst all of a sudden. Rain pouring down. Denji quickly runs to an empty phone booth to take cover. As he stands there waiting for the rain to subside, we see a girl run into the same phone booth, panicked and soaked. Her hair is matted down on her face from the rain, so we can't make out what she looks like. They begin some small talk when all of a sudden, the girl bursts into tears, confusing Denji. Denji stands awkwardly for a bit before vomiting out a flower he had eaten earlier and hands it over to her, trying to comfort her with his vulgar magic trick. Despite it being gross, it is also endearing and seems to work, and she smiles and thanks him. As she takes the flower, both Denji and us can see her clearly for the first time. Introduced on the full-page spread is the central focus of his arc, Reze, staring up at Denji, smiling ear to ear. As if her smile was like the sun, the rain suddenly clears. She tells Denji to stop by the coffee shop she works at so she can thank him later for the flower and runs off. At this point, we leave Denji's perspective and follow Reze now. We watch her walk through an alleyway, up a staircase, past a vending machine, and then finally, we see her walk out of another alleyway into the sunlit street where her coffee shop waits on the other side. She gets in the uniform and goes to greet the one customer in the shop who is revealed to be Denji. This is a fantastic beginning to the Reze arc. Reze instantly stands in stark contrast to all the other women in Denji's life, like his first interaction with Power or Himeno. Denji and Reze hang out at the cafe. The interactions are humorous and innocent. Denji notices that Reze is getting close to him. Really close. And she's touching him. Girls touch boys that they like, right? These thoughts are racing through his head. And he likes girls that like him. And his growing crush is more than the short chases he's had towards other women he's encountered. With the other women in his life, his interest also came along with the promise that he would have some sort of physical intimacy with them. But in this instance, even with the absence of the promise of a kiss or being able to squeeze some boobs or sex, he begins to consistently go back to the cafe just to hang out with Reze. While there are instances of physical touch, they are innocent. She doesn't need to sexually gratify Denji to have his attention, because she hits on something deeper than the comedic desires for sex he's had. She fulfills his need of escaping his loneliness. Born without loving parents and living alone and homeless most of his life, he desires that love he lacked. But he's only capable of verbalizing it through the way his hormonal teenage body understands, through sex. While we've seen glimpses into this, like the first time he touched boobs and felt nothing, this is where we get to see how Denji reacts when given real closeness. While his crush on Makima remains strong, Denji can't help but return to the cafe. But why? Because he's growing a genuine connection and attraction. He's hanging out and having fun with a girl his age, much different from how he's interacted with Himeno or Makima, who were adult women. Even his vulgar nature is something that Reze finds funny and likes being around. And she's able to do this because she exists outside the world of devil hunting, which also builds up tension. A dark presence is lurking elsewhere. An assassin speaks to the Typhoon Devil, explaining his plan to steal Chainsaw Man's heart. He's not going to kill him, he's simply going to kill the one he cares for. Before, Denji didn't care about the people dying around him because he had no emotional connection to them. But now, he's growing a connection to Reze. He might be Chainsaw Man, but she's not, and his life as a devil hunter is putting her at danger, showing how he can never have a normal life as a hunter. And that's when Denji gets invited on his second date ever, Reze offering to take him to explore her school at night, a place he's never had the opportunity to go to. Denji and Reze explore the empty school, holding each other's hands. They look like a real couple, in stark contrast to the image of Denji and Makima standing next to each other, hands away from each other. They pretend to be at school, with Reze acting as the teacher and Denji as the student. Denji wonders if this is what school is like. That's when their conversation becomes serious, with Reze bringing up how it's screwed up how a 16-year-old like him is working as a devil hunter. Someone his age should be going to school and hanging out with friends. She's the first one in the story to openly point out how messed up his situation is. Makima might have saved him from poverty and debt, but did she really save him? But the Denji, whose life has been so awful, as long as he gets food and a warm bed, he's happy. Reze asks him if the bare minimum is really satisfying to him, and he's unable to answer. She's the only one who seems to actively want better for Denji, and not keep him as a hunter. They go over to the school pool where Reze begins to take off her clothes to go swim. Denji isn't sure what to do. After all this time, Denji finally sees Reze in a sexual light. He knows if he jumps in with her naked, his feelings for her and Makima will come into true conflict. But the combination of his need for connection and want for sex are too much, and he jumps in after her. They splash around, have fun, and laugh. Then she reaches out to him, and as the moonlight illuminates her, she tells him she can teach him everything. She can teach him how to be more human, more normal. And then she teaches Denji how to swim. In this moment, where Denji is naked with a girl he likes, he receives his sexual wants, but even more than that, he gets warmth and affection. Even though now he's in the most sexual situation he's been in so far in the story, instead of the scene focusing on the sexuality of the situation, the main crux of it is the closeness that they share. While she is someone who excites him, in this moment where a naked girl is reaching out towards him, he sees a person who is reaching out towards his soul, someone who cares and wants to teach him how to live in a way that is more than just the bare minimum. But while there's a connection between the two of them, the way they want to live life differs, which they find out when Reze asks Denji if he'd rather be the country mouse or the town mouse. It's one of Aesop's fables. The country mouse gets to live in safety, but doesn't get to eat the delicious food like they have in the city. The town mouse gets to eat delicious food, but runs a higher risk of getting killed by humans or cats. Denji would rather be the town mouse. He's lived with the threat of death his entire life. What he wants is to enjoy it to the fullest. Reze differs. She wants to be the country mouse. It's safe and peaceful. And these ideologies are the beginning of the end. When Reze leaves Denji to go to the bathroom, that's where the dark, looming presence from before rears its head. The assassin from earlier is now in the school, and chases Reze while Denji grapples with his feelings for both Makima and Reze. The assassin finally chases Reze up onto the roof, cornered. What will she do? What can she do? We pray that Denji will come save her, but we're not sure. Chainsaw Man is set in a cruel world where characters seem to die at a moment's notice. For all we know, Reze is now the sacrificial lamb in Denji's story. The assassin lunges forward, knife in hand, no Denji in sight. But then, there's a shift. Reze jumps up and puts the assassin into a headlock. The scared schoolgirl now shifts into a stone-cold killer. She chokes the assassin slowly, singing a Russian lullaby to herself until finally, the assassin lays dead. The red herring is now dead. A fantastic twist for this arc. We simply do not expect Reze to be the antagonist of this arc because of her narrative role within Denji's interactions with previous female characters and the false antagonist setup in the beginning. At first, her role seemed to be someone who would provide Denji with a genuine connection and reveal how his desire to be the town mouse would give him more risks. But those risks were not Reze getting hurt, but instead the opposite. Chekhov's gun has now been set, and we wait with bated breath to see when Reze will strike. And it also now improves the conflict within this arc. The antagonist has shifted from an unnamed assassin to now a character with much more weight in the story, making us even more intrigued. Denji and Reze continue their date at a local festival and then go to a secluded area to watch the fireworks. As they wait for them to start, Reze continues to push Denji about the situation, pointing out how she still finds his life to be one that isn't right. She takes his hand and tells him that she likes him, and she wants Denji to run away with her. She gives him an opportunity to escape his life as a devil hunter. But Denji is someone who is a town mouse. He doesn't want to leave. Stuck between living as a town mouse with Makima and the country mouse with Reze, his desire to want more in his life keeps him stuck, unable to commit to Reze. That's when Reze kisses him, and the fireworks go off behind them. She shares a second intimate moment with Denji, and this one even more overt and romantic than when they were at the pool. But this is no moment of thrill. As the fireworks continue, Denji falls backward. Blood spills from his mouth, and he looks up at Reze, who has bitten his tongue off and holds it in her mouth. This is where the main battle of the arc begins, as Denji is rescued by Beam the Shark Fiend, and Reze chases after them, pulling a grenade pin from her choker, transforming into the bomb hybrid. The following fight is one of the best in Chainsaw Man. It's an action-packed, adrenaline rush of a chase scene, and we get a great insight into how Denji feels about this betrayal. With Reze, he thought he had found safety, but instead he was stabbed in the back. He thinks back to all the women he's interacted with and how all of them have seemed to want to have killed him. And it's interesting how even in this moment of battle, Reze tells him that she really does have feelings for him. And while he disregards this as a bluff, saying that he has Makima instead, even Makima is someone he's acknowledged as a woman who served as a negative experience in his life. It's a through line of his life that the one thing he seems to want, intimacy with women, is where he also receives the most pain. It's a fantastic small beat that this arc highlights in this moment, another moment showing how Denji's desire for sex is more than just a gag. Despite being hurt over and over again, he still chases after it because there's something deeper in his soul that he needs. After an explosive battle where Denji and Mima have a stellar team to defeat the Typhoon Devil, Denji manages to subdue Reze in an ironic way. He drags her into the ocean, the both of them surrounded by water. The place where Reze taught Denji how to swim has now become the place where she will drown. On the beach, Reze wakes up to find Denji sitting next to her. He tells her that his current life is great. Even though he gets beaten and killed every so often, he still gets to eat great food. But even though his life is great, he can't bring himself to bring her in. While he still wants to live the life of a town mouse of Makima, he falters when it comes to her. After some banter, Reze pushes Denji away, telling her all her feelings for him were fake and she's going to run away now. But even after hearing this, Denji asks if she wants to run away with him. This is a shocking turn for Denji's character. His feelings for Makima had previously made him reject Reze's plea to run away, but now he's the one instigating the idea of leaving the city and going into the country. Why? Reze was the one who taught him that there's more than just the bare minimum. For the first time, Makima's grip over him has subsided. And for a moment, there's hope that Reze will accept this offer, but just like how Denji had rejected her before, she now rejects him. Denji yells after her that he'll be waiting for her at the cafe to run away together. And what's shocking is that he continues to follow through with this plan. He takes out money, packs his bag, and leaves Aki's apartment, literally leaving behind the home that Makima provided him with. Makima is someone who has such an intense hold over Denji's life throughout the story. She is who he obsesses over, and with their further interactions only seem to deepen this obsession. But for the first time, Denji abandons all of that. Because while Makima had told him that he was human because his heart beats, Reze had taught him why his heart beats. And as Denji waits in the cafe, we once again switch to Reze's perspective as she stands at a train stop, waiting to finally flee the city. But as she stares at the flower in her hand, she falters, because she realizes while she had taught him how to swim, to be human, he had also taught her how to be human as well. He saw past her monstrous surface. No matter how hard she tried to stop him, he still wanted to be with her even after all the pain she had caused. And with a beautiful sequence, we see Reze's final decision. The train passes by her and she does not get on. Is she actually going to run away with Denji? She leaves the station and we watch her walk through a familiar alleyway, up a staircase, past a vending machine, and then finally, we see the sunlit street where the coffee shop waits on the other side. But before she can cross, a horde of rats form into a mass and reveal Makima waiting for her. She tells Reze that she also likes the country mouse and then kills her. The true antagonist of this arc is revealed. Makima, someone who was only present at the beginning and the end, and yet, her grip over Denji can be felt throughout its entirety. And in one fell swoop, she stops the one thing that could sway her control over Denji. And as Reze bleeds out on the floor, staring at Denji through the window waiting for her, she admits that she had never gone to school either. She was so close to saving them both of them, and yet, so far. A Shakespearean tragedy of two people who were meant to help each other, but separated at the last second. Fujimoto's use of repeated panels of Reze walking to the cafe are a perfect plant and payoff. We associate these panels originally as simply Reze's usual path to work, but later on, Fujimoto uses their familiarity to signal non-verbally Reze's decision to run away with Denji at the very end. But unfortunately, Reze takes her last breaths, signaling the return of Denji's further descent into Makima's control. In a singular contained story, the Reze arc fulfills on promises made previously in the series. It takes Denji's main goal of wanting to be with a woman and truly analyzes what he wants. It looks at how his wants are distorted from his lack of understanding of himself and from the influence of Makima. It's the arc that looks back on all his previous interactions and actively calls out the imbalance in their relationship. And this is highlighted excellently with the introduction of Reze, who acts as contrast to Makima. She puts into question Denji's attraction to Makima, even almost pulling him away from her. And these two women represent the wants and needs within Denji, further exemplified by the town mouse and country mouse allegory that is present throughout the arc. And even on its own, it's a fantastic arc that leaves us second guessing at every moment. It was the arc that showed us how good Chainsaw Man could be, and the series has only gone up from here. And I cannot wait for the Chainsaw Man Reze movie to release, so that I can once again see the girl that changed Chainsaw Man. Thank you, Pink Pancreas and Sebastian Simon, for the support. If you'd like to support me more, you can donate to my Patreon. And I'm not kidding, I'm gonna go watch that Reze movie like 50 times.